The first time Megan asked him to stay late, the city lights outside her hillside home flickered like distant stars, and something inside both of them shifted in a way neither could ignore. If you were sitting across from someone who had already lost everything once, would you dare to ask them for more? Would you risk crossing that invisible line between professional and personal, knowing it could change everything? Megan had built her marketing firm from the ground up in Seattle, surviving on 4 hours of sleep and cold coffee for nearly a decade. Success wrapped itself around her like a tailored blazer, sharp, structured, impressive. But underneath it, she carried an ache no award or contract could silence. 2 years earlier, a drunk driver had taken her younger sister, and with her went the warmth that used to fill Megan's nights. Since then, silence had become her most loyal companion. Ryan walked into her office on a rainy Tuesday in October, holding a worn leather folder and the hand of his 5-year-old daughter, Ava. His resume wasn't spectacular, but his eyes were steady, tired in a way that came from more than missed sleep. His wife had died from an aggressive illness 18 months before. Hospital bills had swallowed his savings, and grief had swallowed everything else. He wasn't asking for sympathy. He was asking for a chance. Megan saw something in him that she couldn't name. Maybe it was the way he knelt to wipe a smear of chocolate from Ava's cheek before shaking Megan's hand. Maybe it was the way he didn't flinch when she asked difficult questions about gaps in his employment. He answered honestly. He had been caring for his wife. He had been learning how to braid hair. He had been figuring out how to explain death to a child who still set a place at the dinner table for her mother. She hired him that afternoon. At first, their relationship was strictly professional. Ryan handled logistics and client coordination with quiet efficiency. He stayed late when projects demanded it, then rushed home to relieve his elderly neighbor who watched Ava in the evenings. Megan admired his discipline. He admired her resilience, but neither dared to look too closely at the way their conversations lingered longer than necessary. Late nights became frequent as the company prepared for a high-profile product launch in Los Angeles. The office would empty out, leaving only the hum of computers and the glow of desk lamps. Megan would stand by the window overlooking Puget Sound, arms folded, pretending she wasn't exhausted. Ryan would sit across from her at the conference table, reviewing campaign timelines, pretending he wasn't lonely. One evening, after a 14-hour workday, Megan asked him to come to her house to review final presentation details. It wasn't unusual. Executives often hosted strategy sessions at home. But something about the quiet in her voice made the request heavier than it should have been. Her home sat on a hill above the city, modern and immaculate, with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the skyline. When Ryan arrived, Ava was asleep at his neighbor's house, and he carried the weight of guilt for not being there to tuck her in. Megan led him to the patio, where a wooden table overlooked the twinkling lights below. She wore a simple green dress, her hair pulled back, her composure thinner than usual. They went over slides and talking points until the work ran out, but the silence did not. The night air was cool. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed and faded. Megan's hands trembled slightly as she rested them on the table. Then came her late-night request. She didn't ask for romance. She didn't ask for comfort in the way he might have expected. She asked him to stay, not as an employee finishing a task, but as another human being who understood what it meant to lose someone you loved. She told him about her sister, about the phone call that split her life into before and after. She confessed that some nights the house felt so empty it pressed against her chest like a physical weight. She admitted that she had built her company not just for success, but to outrun grief. If you were Ryan, sitting there with your own scars still raw, would you step closer or would you protect what little of yourself you had left? He could have kept things professional. He could have reminded her of boundaries. But instead, he told her about the hospital room, about the way his wife had squeezed his hand even when she could no longer speak. He spoke about the first time Ava asked why her mommy wasn't coming back, and how he had locked himself in the bathroom afterward so she wouldn't see him break. That night didn't end with passion. It ended with two people sitting side by side, hands resting near each other on a wooden table, sharing the kind of honesty that only pain can unlock. In the weeks that followed, something fragile began to grow. Megan started leaving the office earlier, encouraging Ryan to do the same. She met Ava one Saturday at a park near Lake Washington. The little girl studied her with solemn brown eyes before offering half of her peanut butter sandwich, a gesture so pure it cracked something open in Megan's guarded heart. Ryan noticed the change in his daughter. Ava laughed more. She stopped setting the extra plate at dinner. She began drawing pictures of 3 stick figures instead of 2, but Ryan wrestled with guilt. Was he betraying his wife's memory by allowing someone new into their lives? Was he risking Ava's fragile sense of security? Megan faced her own fears. She had never imagined sharing her meticulously controlled world with a child's toys scattered across the living room. She feared that loving them meant opening herself to the possibility of loss all over again. The turning point came months later, on a stormy night in December. Ava developed a high fever, and Ryan rushed her to the emergency room at Swedish Medical Center. Megan was in Chicago for a conference when she received his text. Without hesitation, she booked the first flight home. When she arrived at the hospital, Ryan looked smaller somehow, hunched over in a plastic chair, exhaustion carved into his face. He hadn't called her for help. He hadn't wanted to burden her. But when he saw her walking down the fluorescent-lit hallway, relief flooded his eyes in a